Hello guys, so I just want to take a moment to explain the content and how best to approach 11.2. So 11.2 is assessment and treatment plan. And essentially what you have to do is for two contrasting clients that you're going to create, you need to assess them. That will be done via a consultation. And once you've finished that consultation and you've got loads of information about that client, you're going to design a treatment plan to treat them. Obviously, what will happen in 11.3 is you will do that treatment plan on your client. That's the practical assessment. And then you will review your treatment and your planning and discuss how effective you think it was with evidence of that. So that's the kind of cycle. So you'll do that for client one, you'll do the consultation, the treatment plan, you'll treat them, you'll evaluate the treatments and planning, and then you'll do exactly the same after that for client two, who will be somebody quite different. That's the kind of overview. Remember, these two assignments blend into each other the way we're going to do it. We're going to do everything about client one in both assignments and everything about client two in both assignments. But let's look at the actual assignment two. So on the left here, we've got the assignment brief on the assessment record. So obviously this you'll have seen before. This is where I give your grades. I write the comment on you. The yellow stuff is what you need to add, so your name, your signature. Remember, you're declaring that this is all your own work and you haven't plagiarized. You've cited any information you've used. You haven't used any AI to create work for you. And obviously, hopefully this isn't required. This is the resubmission assessment sheet that I will complete. We get onto the assignment brief. And as you know, every assignment has to have some kind of context, some scenario. So this is the scenario for 11.2. To demonstrate your suitability for this sensitive role of being a sports massage therapist, the next phase of the application, by the way, 11.1 is about you going for a massage job. And in assignment one, you've got to show a lot of knowledge, whereas assignment 2 and 3 is more the application of that knowledge and the skills that you have to do massage. So the next phase of the application for placement at the local clinic in Brighton requires you to submit a portfolio of evidence demonstrating your ability to undertake two contrasting client consultations and assessments, as well as the formulation of appropriate treatment plans for each of those two clients. What you'll need to include in this portfolio are two completed consultation documents. By the way, you're going to have to design that document yourself, create that document. You're going to use it when you do your consultation, and it'll be typed up and put in this assignment proof document for each of the clients. You've got to do a consultation with that client. Remember, you're going to be role playing for each other. That will need to be videoed. You'll upload that video to YouTube and put the link in here as normal. After those consultations, you're going to design your treatment plan. That will need to be put into this assignment brief document for each of those two clients. And you've also got to justify what you did in your consultations, review how effective, review your choices. Why did you treat them in that certain way? Why did you measure range of movement on particular joints in that certain way? How did you gather information? Justify your choices and how you conducted the assessment, the consultation. But also you've got to justify the techniques and the order of the techniques that you put in your treatment plan for each of those two clients. So that's just an overview of the evidence that you're going to need to gather. And then we get into, okay, this assignment, 11.2, has 3 parts. 1, the consultation. 2, planning your treatments. And 3, reviewing and justifying how you did, what you included. The last thing you'll need, not the last thing, what you'll need to do is when you've got your consultation videos, you paste the YouTube playlist link in here. I want one playlist link in here, which includes the 2 consultations that you've done. So one playlist link, including the 2 videos from the 2 different consultations. Here, of course, are the criteria that are going to be assessed. So remember, it's pass, merit, distinction. The justification and review content, so that's part 3 here, sorry, part C here, is the distinction level content. The other things, so doing the consultations and producing treatment plans for those 2 clients, is pass and merit. But the part C is where you earn your distinction content. There's lots of links here that can help you to use as sources of information. Of course, you might find others, and the examiners expect you to use a range of evidence in your decisions for what you include. If you're including a technique in for a certain client, then we've got to know why. So in the assignment brief document, I've also started you off with some structure. So remember, we're going to do all of client 1 stuff first. So you'll put the name of the client and whatever activity or sport they do there. So that will be changed by you. In here, you're going to have your created consultation document where you're going to gather all the information about your client and do all the assessments and talk to them and make notes. Here is where you're going to have your treatment plan for client 1. And here is where you're going to earn your distinction by justifying or putting your justifications for how you did your consultation and what you included in your treatment plan. So that there is basically the structure for everything to do with client 1. What we'll then be doing is jumping to assignment 3, where you're going to treat client 1 and do the assessment, the video assessment of you actually treating your client, doing the treatment plan that you've created, and you'll also do the evaluation of how effective that treatment was. And then all client 1 stuff will be done. We'll have done the 11.2 stuff in here, and we'll have done the 11.3 stuff in that assignment. Once that's all completed, we'll come back to 11.2, and you'll do exactly the same process, order of things, content, but for client 2. So you'll put the name of your client 2 here, whatever activity they do. Remember, they've got to be contrasting types of treatment. You'll put their consultation document here. Remember, the video of the consultation will be in the playlist anyway. You'll put their treatment plan here, and you'll do the justification bit here. For justifications to do with the consultation, in this second one, please only justify anything that you did differently. And there should be something done differently, perhaps some of the assessments, the measures, or depending on who they are, whether they had a chaperone with them or an adult with them, if they're a young person. But only do justifications for anything you did differently in the consultation, but you need to definitely justify what you included and why you included things into your treatment plan for this client. And that is all of assignment 2. Of course, once we've finished this content for client 2, we'll jump back to 11.3, where you'll do the treatment on client 2 and you'll do the evaluation on client 2. Once that's done, all of assignment 2 and 3 are fully completed. So, just want to sort of alongside this, that's where all your work will end up. All your work should end up in this assignment brief document. On the right here, I've got the guidance sheet, and of course, I've tried to make it as methodical and sort of organised for you as possible. So essentially, once you've done the consultation with client 1, tick this box. Once you've done the treatment plan for client 1, tick this box. Once you've done the justification, tick this box. Then we jump to assignment 3. When we come back to assignment 2, the same thing. Tick it off as you go. So it's hopefully quite methodical. This is all the specification content that we need to make sure I can assess you on in your work. So you've got to show knowledge of these things and explanation of these things and application of these things. So have a look at that. There's the criteria again. There's some general guidance here about the sorts of things you're doing in the consultation, making sure you evidence literature very clearly in the information from the exam board. is they want you to use evidence for technique. So if you're saying you chose this technique, evidence why that technique is a good technique to use from literature. And you know from research methods, credible sources of literature are really, really helpful, really, really beneficial and appropriate. Remember, any images you use, images are good to include, by the way, any muscle images, any technique images, any website pages or books you use to evidence and prepare you. You must keep those links, and before you submit, you're going to create a bibliography. Can't remember if I left there I did. I had a title page. The final page in the assignment brief is for you to include your bibliography. So that's a really big one and an important one, and a requirement of that. Video evidence, obviously I've got to video the consultation in assignment 2. I've got to video your treatments in assignment 3. We need evidence of what you do. That's a sensitive thing. We'll be really sensible with that. What we also want to see, especially for this distinction thing, is, especially in assignment 3 actually, is maybe making some changes to your plan or adding things or modifying things. Know who you want your client to be before you do the consultation, because remember, the person who's role playing for you needs to kind of help you out. And the more you've created ahead of time, the more you can prompt them what you want them to do, where you want them to say it hurts, why it might hurt. You know, almost you're anticipating what you want the treatment plan to be, the better. So think ahead would be a huge bit of advice for these assignments, these 2 assignments. Then in the guidance sheet, we go on to, okay, let's look at how you've got to do it, part A, what you've got to think about, what you've got to cover, what you've got to include. So I've put just here the spec that is just applicable to this part A. There's a little bit of description there for you to read. I'm not going to read it all for you now. And then I've created, again, a hopefully methodical tick box of sorts of things to consider, include, create, talk about, reference, show evidence that you understand about it. And I really want you to go, some of it is getting you to think about how you might be when you do the consultation. And that could inform your justification. I acted in this way, or I told them this, or I gave them these instructions, or I greeted them. So I think probably I've got starting the consultation. When somebody comes into a massage, they might never have been before. To have a consultation, they may never have done this before. So how can you put them at ease? And then you can justify why you did that and how you did that in part C. So really think through things in quite fine detail. Hopefully then, as you're doing your consultation, preparing for it, and as you do the consultation, you have ticked off all of these because you've considered them. Part B then is, okay, I've finished my client 1 consultation. I found out about them. I've got a sense of what I think's astray with them. Now I need to design a treatment plan to help them. And this is what I'll be doing for my 11.3 practical assessment for client 1. So again, here is the specific content of the spec that we need to account for. And here again is hopefully something that you can follow bit by bit by bit and tick off. This is the client 1 tick box as you go through. So please note, each aspect of what you include in the treatment plans will need to be justified in part 3 of the assignment. So why did you start with effleurage? And in here, you'll justify why. You've got to know why you're doing that technique and what sort of outcomes you would get from doing it. What's the purpose of doing it? What do you actually achieve? So you're going to create a format for your treatment plan. So we'll talk about this more in lessons. That might be a PowerPoint actually, and if you decide to use a PowerPoint, you'll have to attach it to your assignment. Some students use the Word document. If it's used in Word, then you're going to put it in here. If it's a PowerPoint, we'll just attach it as a separate file. I would strongly recommend you consider using diagrams, using images of muscles, that is really easy for you to be led by, because whatever template you use, whatever format you produce, you're going to have this beside you in your 11.3 assessment treatment, and you're going to be following it. I don't expect you to fully remember it. I wouldn't be able to just remember a treatment I was doing. So you'll have a sheet of paper with your treatment plan on it, and you need to be able to observe it and follow it very easily whilst you're treating your client. Obviously, then for the treatment plan, you've got to know and state and explain what you're trying to achieve. What are the treatment aims and why will it help your client? How long do you expect it to last? How often would you expect this treatment to be done for your client? Obviously, you're going to do it once. Then are you assuming you're going to do it weekly, monthly? It's a one-off. You need to know what techniques you're doing on what muscles. So, you're not just literally going to find your way around. It's an intentional, planned thing. So you'll be showing off the muscle groups that you know, the superficial and deep muscle groups. You need to know any reasons why you might need to avoid certain areas or not do a treatment because there are contraindications. We'll learn all this stuff in the lessons. But as I said, you're going to plan in your treatment plan what you intend to do in your 11.3 practical treatment. But I strongly recommend you anticipate modifying it, adding something, changing it because of some reason. And that's really good to be able to write about in the 11.3 evaluation bit. So hopefully that explains that. And that's the part B, how to create a treatment plan. Obviously, the lessons will supplement this understanding. They must be personalised. They can't just be the same as everybody else. They can't just be the same as we show you in the learning lessons. You can't completely just copy the order that we do things in. You need to personalise it, individualise it based on you and your client's needs. Lastly then, part C. So the written review and justification of your consultation process and your treatment planning. Here again is the spec for those two things. The spec for the assessments, the spec for the treatment plan. You've got to justify what you did and why you did it. And strongly can I make the point that you need literature. So you need to find academic sources of information as to why you've done these things and why you treated them the way you did it. Keep those links, put it in a bibliography. But for distinction, it clearly says you must evidence with literature your choices and the rationale behind your choices for all of these things. But again, what I've done is I've tried to make a little tick box. So justifications for the assessment procedure. These are some things to think about. And then justification for the treatment plan. These are some things to think about. Justify why you did this, that, and the other. That's the content. The last, I think, page or two of the guidance sheet is some pointers for the quality of your work. So if you are pushing for merits or distinctions, it's not just making statements. You've got to either explain why, or you've got to develop your answer and justify why. Give a reason why you've chosen these things. Show that you are thinking, show that you're informed, show that you haven't just copied something. If you use any diagrams or graphs, of course, can you caption them so you're talking about them. And I think ended with some ways in which you can make your writing a little bit more academic with those various kinds of linking words. So summary of what you've got to do for the whole of assignment 2 is on the last page. So I want you to have a look at this, get a sense of what you've got to do so that when we are trying to complete, content fairly promptly in lessons, you kind of know what you've got to create, because it is actually quite a creating assignment. It's not just to copy this down, and you've got to create the client, you've got to create the consultation content, you've got to create the treatment plan yourself. Think it through, plan ahead. I think that explains it okay.